used to describe how trade and technology have made the world into a more connected and interdependent place. In short, the globalization refers to integration between peoples, companies, and governments. It means speed up of movement and exchange of people and etc. The advantage of socio-political under the globalization. Establishment of international norms. When nation-states sign treaties with international bodies, it's an agreement to operate within a set of norms and standards that all signatories will adhere to. Example, war crime standards that are policies by the International Criminal Court in Versailles. Ease of movement. Often, political agreements between nations lead to relaxing of the movement of labor across boundaries. This can lead to immigration and immigration opportunities for millions of people. Calculate how easily a price can move up or down based on momentum. Some common synonyms of ease movement, the expectation or past, fleet, and other. Ease of trade. One of the key goals of political globalization is to create better trade routes around the world. An effect to support and promote the economic globalizations. In one free trade situation, nations that are excellent in producing a certain product or service will become global. This can free up other nations to produce other products more efficiently also because they will be able to reallocate resources to industries they more efficient at working with them. Establishment of blocks of influences. Multinational political agreements are often designed to create a block of allies that are stronger than the sum of their parts. One of example of this is when small African and Pacific nations gather together to vote as bloc in the United Nations. Solve global problems like climate change. As the 21st century progresses, the problem of climate change becomes more and more processed to solve. Many nations claim that they alone can do very little to solve climate change. This is very common to hear in Australian politics. In this context, an effective way to solve climate change is to create a global pact where all nations, which is account for only a small amount of carbon emissions. The disadvantage of socio-political under globalization. Loss of power at the nation-state level. When nation-states make multinational agreements, they often make conscious in order to reach a middle ground that's satisfactory to all parties. They also sign off on certain norms and standards that restrict their abilities to unilaterally take action. One of the reasons Britain chose to leave the European Union was they were unhappy that they were tied to European rules around, among the other things. Level of bureaucracy. Multinational political agreements can add extra layer of bureaucracy to everyday activities of businesses and citizens. For example, many global political agreements put in place standards that you need to take off before sending a product to market. Another way they increase bureaucracy is through the very fact the running and administration of multinational agreements is a burden. Example, the European Union's budget is 157.9 billion, which needs to paid into by each nation state. Decrease political accountability. One of the biggest critique of bodies like the WTO, the EU, and United Nations is that they are full of unselected bureaucrats. Similarity, the decisions made in multinational agreements are, by their very nature, are made not only by the citizens of by nations, but also leaders of competitor nations. These foreign leaders are in no way accountable to you or your fellow citizens.
So God bless everyone. This is Amila Limbi Makadaya reporting my topic in which globalization and neoliberalism advantages and disadvantages. So first, what are the economic advantages of globalization? So number one, increased choice. No individual country could produce the sheer variety of goods that can be produced globally through globalization. Consumers in one country can have access to goods and services that they would never otherwise have access to. So number two, higher quality goods. As each nation concentrates on its own specialty industries, there is a far less reinventing the wheel. For example, every country does not need to waste its scarce resources producing its own vision of the smartphone, when one can be imported from a country from another country that specializes in the product. So number three, increased competition. The presence of increased competition is in a country economy from foreign companies means to have or to more efficient market and lower prices for consumers. Suppliers of goods and services need to keep their prices low to stay competitive. So for economies of scale. A globalization which provides companies with a much bigger effective market in which to sell their products. They can scale up their production too. So as the level of production increases, their margin on each good or services provided can increase as their fixed costs remain the same or became in, incrementally smaller. So number five, increased capital flows. Capital is able to flow into developing economies, providing a significant form of finance that business in that economic would not otherwise have access to. So the disadvantages of so this so the disadvantages of economic globalization. So what are the economic disadvantages of globalization? Number one, possible monopolization of multinational companies. It is a large enterprises from developed countries may move into smaller developing nations and take over the markets. Their specialization and efficiency in providing a particular goods or services may mean that local producers in a developing country are not out by the market. So structural unemployment. If a country is no longer competitive, so this is the disadvantages of the competitive production of a particular good. This may mean that this production rapidly moves offshore and workers are left unemployed. So number three, so interdependence. Individual countries became dependent on other nations for their supplies. So they are not sharing about their supplies. If there is a if if there is a disruption to this chain, they may no longer be able to produce the good themselves. So this is the advantages of economic neoliberalism. So free market promotes freedom of trade, benefiting both sellers and buyers, elimination of economic boundaries. So second, competition. The seller must adapt to a buyer with a wide variety of options to choose from. This competition fast foster an improvement in the product or service offered. Goodbye to taxes. Neoliberalism advocates a society in which taxes are minimal or non-existent. since it advocates the privatization of all public services. So, advantages of economic neoliberalism is the inequality, the total privatization of some sectors such as education can foster social inequality and cultural gap. So monopoly is the privatization. So monopoly is privatization of public sectors in a drastic way can lead to the formation of monopolies benefiting a few. So environmental problems. In many cases, the environment is not respected due to the search of profit.
God bless, ma'am. My name is Nabarang Parcosa in first year college and BSSW1E. So, my topic for this video is all about culture. So, cultural globalization refers to the transmission of ideas, meaning, and values around the world in such a ways as to extend and intensify social relations. This process is marked by the common consumption of culture that have been diffused by the internet, popular culture, media, and international travel. So, my advantage is people of all cultures become used to one another and learn more about each other as individual. People get to enjoy and learn about the history, music, style, and dining of other cultures and enjoy the commonalities and differences. So people get to take pride in themselves while also living with people who may be different. Disadvantage, people have tended to stick with others their own culture than living in situations of interactive cultural differences. Many times, cultural mocking and appropriation occurs and it's seen with much aggression. Culture may become blended and lost in time. It's important to have things in common with people, but we have to own up for history. So, cultural integration helps us all get along, improves familiarity and tolerance, and so reduce ignorance, fear, and hostility. It also proves that we to enjoy a wide variety of good ethnic food restaurants. We may learn about different ways of doing and thinking about things. It can only be advantageous when it happens, as if it wasn't, the people who didn't waste time on it would survive more than those who do. God bless, ma'am. That's all. Thank you.
God bless everyone. I'm Najma D. Kasar. Now I'm going to share my insight about the advantage and disadvantage of spiritual. Every person has spirituality. Whatever moves, expresses your spirit or inner energy is a part of your spirituality. In some senses, your spirituality is expressed in every aspect of your personal and public life. It is just a part of who you are, woven into express through every thought, feeling, and action. The disadvantage of spirituality is spirituality can lead to extremism. Spirituality can be dangerous because it can lead to extremism. When people become to focus on their spiritual beliefs, they can start to see the world in the black and white terms. They may become intolerant of other belief systems and start to see anymore who doesn't share their beliefs as enemy. Spirituality can be used to manipulate and control. In the hands of skilled practitioners, spirituality can be used to control and manipulate people. This was famously depicted in the Harry Potter series, where the Dark Lord Voldemort used magic to control his followers and instill fear in his enemies. Spirituality can keep you from seeking scientific knowledge. Although the spirituality is a source of moral guidance, it can also keep you from seeking scientific knowledge and understanding. This is because some religious teaching of emphasize fight over reason. The spirituality can affect the critical thinking skills. People who really too heavily on their spiritual leaders may find that their critical thinking skills begin to deteriorate. This is because they become accustomed to having information presented to them without having to find it. The spirituality can find a relationship and social interactions. For some of us, the first spirituality can take up so much of our social lives that they easily become isolated from the people around us. Subsequently, we become disconnected from the people in our lives. Advantage of spirituality: enhance spiritual growth and understanding. When we engage in the spiritual practice like prayer, meditation, or simply taking a break, we open ourselves up to new insights and perspectives about life. As a result, we may come to see the world in a different light, and our spiritual understanding can then deepen. Greater peace and calmness. Peace of mind is a great benefit of spiritual wellness. When we connect with our spiritual sides, we can find a sense of calm and relaxation that helps us manage stress and anxiety better. More meaningful lives. A spirituality enriched life is often more fulfilling and purposeful than one who does it not. When we connect with our spiritual sides, we may find that our passion and interests align more closely with our spiritual values like honesty, trust, kindness, and generosity. Connection to a larger community. Along with the brain exercises, those who pursue the spiritual wellness often connect with others who share the spiritual values. This can create a sense of community and support will allow us to make friends with like-minded people and generally feel more socially connected. This can mean attending yoga class once or twice or week, going to spiritual festivals once in a while. Improve relationships. People who are spiritual have a healthier and more fulfilling relationship than those who are not. This is likely because they are more compassionate and understanding and place a greater values on relationship. That's all. Thank you.
So let's proceed to environmental. Environmental globalization refers to the internationally coordinated and practices and regulation often in the form of international treaties regarding environmental protection. So there are also advantages of this environmental. Number one is it has provided a mechanism for governments and other international actors to cooperate and address pressing concerns about the environment. Number two, it helped clean our air, purify our water, produce food and medicines, reduce chemical and noise pollution, slow flood waters, and cool our streets. Number three, greater connectivity and higher rates of international travel have made it easier than ever for individuals to see the effect of deforestation, habitat loss, and climate change on the environment. This in turn has contributed to new laws, regulations, and processes to limit negative effects. Number 4, protecting endangered species and cleaning lakes and seas has a positive effect in the environment. And lastly, it improves mental well-being. There are also disadvantages of environmental. Number 1 is it increasing greenhouse gas emissions. Number 2, cutting down trees and littering have a negative effect on the animals and plants. Number 3, increased habitat destruction, deforestation, and increase in invasive species. Number 4, increasing greenhouse gas emissions, ocean acidification, deforestation, and other form of habitat loss or destruction, and also climate change. Number 5, globalization has caused many animals' natural habitat to fall victims to increased farming, ranching, and other economic activities. So the more forests are cut down and the more waterways are overfished, the poorer and unhealthier our environment becomes.
Hi, God bless everyone. My name is Siti Hamima Gaos Mamay. In this topic about global and gender, we can learn its advantage and disadvantage. So, global and gender equality is a human right, but our world faced a persistent gap in access to opportunities and decision-making power of women and men. And then, disadvantage of global gender. Gender stereotypes affect behavior study, choice, ambitions, and attitude about relationship. So, like, for example, girls are less likely to take part in organized sport. And then, no direct measure of gender equality. And then, no measure of overall welfare penalties for gender inequalities and income dominates. And then, no measure of overall welfare, no direct measure, and then, no measure of overall welfare, gender difference and income dominates.